I still remember the first time I saw him, standing by the library window, completely absorbed in a book. There was something about the way he smiled to himself, as if the story he read was his own private world. I had gone there to return a book, but I walked out carrying something far more unexpected, his number scribbled on a receipt. He wasn't charming in the loud, showy way. He was gentle, kind, and deeply present. I was a teacher. He was a journalist. Different worlds, somehow aligned by fate. We fell in love slowly, like dawn creeping up on a sleeping city. There were no grand declarations, no dramatic gestures, just morning coffee with stolen glances, walks through quiet streets, long conversations about everything and nothing. His words made me feel understood. My silences made him feel safe. When he proposed, it was in the middle of folding laundry. No ring, no audience, just a quiet, "Will you grow old with me?" And I said yes, not out of excitement, but certainty. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was real. Bills came, stress visited, and we disagreed like any other couple. But we never let a night pass without talking. Even during our hardest years, when he lost his job, when I struggled with anxiety, we held each other, reminded ourselves why we started. Then came our son. He arrived with the kind of joy that breaks and rebuilds you. Watching him grow was like watching our love take physical shape. He had his father's eyes and my stubbornness. We raised him on stories, hugs, and honesty. I wanted him to grow up believing that love is a daily choice, not a fairy tale. We taught him to speak his truth, but to listen first, to be strong, but never cruel. Years passed like turning pages in a book you never want to end. Our son became a teenager, then a young man. I could see the man he was becoming, the one we had poured our love into shaping. My husband and I, now older, a little wrinkled, but still in love, often sat in silence, just holding hands. Love had softened into something more sacred. Trust, ease, belonging. And yet, even in the most carefully tended gardens, storms come. It started with small things. Our son grew distant, often defensive. He challenged more than he listened. I assumed it was just youth testing its voice. But something was shifting, subtle, yet undeniable. He questioned our values, our choices, our love. Once during a dinner, he looked at me and said, "Maybe you've settled too easily for what you call love." His words stung, but I stayed silent. Not because I had no answer, but because I knew the answer would be wasted in that moment. What he didn't know then, and what I hoped he'd learn in time, was that true love isn't loud or flashy. It's built in silence, in forgiveness, in staying when leaving would be easier. I didn't know it then, but his questioning was only the beginning. Love was about to be tested in a way I never imagined. It happened on a Thursday. My husband came home early from work, his face unreadable, jaw tight. He asked me quietly, "Did you know I read your journal?" My heart dropped. I stared at him, frozen. My journal wasn't hidden, but it was sacred, a space where I poured my truth without filters, where I'd written about everything from childhood fears to marital doubts, raw moments of weakness, and silent victories I'd never spoken aloud. "No," I whispered. He nodded slowly, then sat down without looking at me. "He used your words. Against me." I didn't understand at first. Then it clicked. My entries, the ones where I had admitted feeling unseen during our hardest year, where I had written about loneliness even in the presence of love, had been read by our son. And he'd used them, in anger, to confront his father. The betrayal cut deep, not because he had read it, but because he had taken emotions he didn't understand and turned them into weapons. I felt stripped, exposed. That journal held pieces of me no one had ever heard, not even my husband. I walked to our room, locked the door, and sat in silence. The pain wasn't sharp. It was heavy, slow, and deep, like grief. My son had crossed a line I didn't think he ever would. And my husband, his silence hurt even more. No defense, no anger, no comfort, just distance. At dinner that night, no one spoke. Ian didn't look up once. He must have known. I wanted to shout, cry, ask why, but nothing came out. I wasn't angry. I was numb. In the days that followed, the air between my husband and me thickened. We coexisted, but we weren't together. He avoided eye contact. I stopped reaching out. We weren't fighting, but we weren't healing either. Something had shifted, and neither of us knew how to fix it. Ian stayed quiet too. He didn't apologize. He didn't ask how I felt. Maybe he didn't know how. Maybe he thought honesty justified everything. But honesty without empathy is cruelty. And that's what this felt like. I started questioning everything. Had I been too open with my thoughts? Had I failed to protect my emotional boundaries? Had we raised a son who didn't understand the weight of words? At night, I couldn't sleep. I would stare at the ceiling and wonder how love could be so easily cracked by a single act. I miss my husband's hand on my back, his quiet whispers before sleep. I missed being seen. It wasn't just about the journal. It was about feeling alone in a house we'd built on shared dreams. For the first time in years, I felt like a stranger in my own home. What hurt most wasn't the breach. It was the silence that followed. The unspoken distance. The way love, once so steady, now felt uncertain. And I didn't know if we could come back from it. 3 days passed before my husband finally spoke. His voice was low, tired. I read some of those entries too. I shouldn't have, but I needed to understand. I didn't interrupt. He continued, I wasn't angry at you. I was ashamed. I didn't realize how much you had kept inside. I sat across from him, arms folded. My walls were up, but his voice cracked a little when he said, You've always carried us. I thought I was doing enough. I wasn't. Something in me softened, just slightly. He wasn't just apologizing. He was seeing me, truly seeing me, for the first time in a long time. That mattered. Later that night, Ian stood outside our door. He didn't knock at first. When he did, his voice trembled. Can I talk to you? I opened the door, uncertain. He looked smaller somehow, like a boy, not the bold young man who had thrown my words back at me. He stared at the floor. I read the journal because I was curious. I don't know what I thought. I was angry. I felt like you both were hiding things from me. I shouldn't have done it. I didn't rush to forgive him. I asked him why he felt the need to confront his father with my private thoughts. His answer wasn't polished. I wanted to shake him, make him see how lucky he is to have you. That broke something inside me, not in pain, but in understanding. His action was wrong, but the emotion behind it wasn't cruelty. It was confusion, immaturity, and love he didn't know how to express. We sat together, the three of us, in an uncomfortable silence. Then my husband reached for my hand. No words, just that small gesture. And something shifted. Healing didn't happen overnight. I still felt vulnerable. I still hesitated to write in my journal. But slowly, trust began to grow back. Not the old trust, but a deeper one, born from being seen at your most raw and still being loved. We started talking more, real conversations, not surface-level exchanges. My husband asked questions. He listened. He shared more, too. I learned things he'd buried, fears he'd never admitted. Ian started joining us again without being asked. His attitude softened. He began asking about our past, how we met, what love looked like before he existed. He wanted to understand, not criticize. That was new. That was growth. Forgiveness wasn't a single moment. It was many small moments, soft answers, long looks, shared laughter that didn't feel forced. We didn't erase what happened. We learned from it. I found myself journaling again, this time with the hope that someday, when he's ready, I'll share parts of it with Ian willingly, not as a lesson, but as a way to show him what love costs and what it gives in return. We weren't the same, but we were stronger, not in spite of what happened. Because of it, months passed, and what once felt like a fracture slowly became a scar, a reminder, not a wound. The silence between us was gone. In its place was a new rhythm, a gentler pace. We no longer assumed we understood each other. We asked, we listened, we responded. The distance that had crept in was now replaced by quiet appreciation, not for perfection, but for the willingness to grow. Ian began changing in ways I hadn't expected. He became more present, more reflective. One afternoon, he handed me a letter. It wasn't long, but every word was careful. He wrote about guilt, about immaturity, and how hard it is to see your parents as people. He said he didn't understand before, but he was starting to. That letter mattered, not because it erased what happened, but because it proved he was learning to take responsibility. My husband and I found new comfort in each other. Not the old routine comfort, but something closer, more intentional. We paid attention again, noticed the small things. The effort returned, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. There was something tender about rediscovering someone you've shared decades with, and realizing they're still becoming. One evening, I told Ian how we met, in full detail, not the version fit for a child. He listened with interest, not interruption. When I finished, he looked at me differently. I didn't know love could look like that. He said, I smiled. It can. And sometimes it breaks and comes back stronger. He nodded, as if he finally understood that love wasn't about never falling, but about getting up together. We started writing a journal together as a family, one entry each week. Shared thoughts, hopes, even jokes. It became our way of checking in, without pressure, without confrontation. Words that had once divided us now became the bridge. My husband began leaving me little notes again. Not romantic in the traditional sense, just small reminders that I was seen, heard, loved. I responded the same way. It was our quiet language. The love we thought we might have lost was still there, less dramatic, more rooted. Ian, now older in mine more than years, began offering help without being asked. He stayed longer at the dinner table. He asked about our day. These things seemed ordinary, but to us, they were everything. We had come back from something that could have easily broken us. Looking back, I don't regret the boundary he crossed. It hurt, yes, but it opened a door, a chance to confront truths we had buried too long, a chance to teach him what love really means, not the version in movies, but the one built daily in patience, understanding, and forgiveness. He once said, I thought love was supposed to be perfect. I told him, no, it's supposed to be real. And real love, messy, tested, enduring, is the kind that stays. That's the love we chose. And that's the love we continue to choose every single day.